All right, it is 6:01 PM. Today is Wednesday, April 15th, 2026, 6 o'clock, and already said 6:01. And this is the work meeting for the Virgin Town Council. April texted me and said she was at a doctor's appointment. She might not be here. So, or she might be late. We'll see if she shows up or not. So it's just the four of us for tonight for the work meeting. Okay, so the very first item is the new unlisted businesses review process. So even though, Mark, you've done this little presentation and you're gonna talk about this, then is Ryder still gonna talk about it?
I take full advantage of Ryder's contract with us. As you can tell from the agenda with all the ordinances on it.
Okay, all right.
I'll do a very high level introduction of Ryder.
All right, go for it, Ray.
Thank you, Mayor, thank you, Council. Yeah, so our first item is a new item, because we don't have enough ordinance amendments. We thought we'd add more. I'm learning that the state of Utah loves to regulate local governments. You all know that too well. So there's a new state law regarding, requiring local municipalities to adopt process to determine certain uses in commercial zones are similar or not similar to current allowable uses. And with that, I'm gonna let Riker get into the weeds on it. Again, we're taking full advantage of Riker's new contract. This is his second week in the office. There'll be a regular, certainly at planning commission meetings, but also at town council meetings when we have planning. So here's one just full. So Riker, take it away.
So with this particular ordinance, the section of state code that is mandating the adoption of this process is 10-20-507, and it's requiring every municipality to establish a process to classify proposed business uses. This process essentially, as you can see in the back, we kind of laid this out. The process allows an applicant to come in and propose that the use that they're proposing, and they can say that the use they're proposing is similar to an existing use in Virgin Town Code. The way that this ordinance is set up, it requires them to submit an application for that. The zoning administrator, well, I believe it's the he changed it, so it's the town planner. Would make the determination as to whether or not this is considered a similar use. If it is not considered a similar use, then what happens is the applicant can take that use to the town council and request a code amendment to add that use to the code. And that's a legislative decision. That doesn't guarantee that the use be added. Town council still has full discretion there, but it does elevate it to the town council if it's determined to be not a similar use.
So they go first to town council.
No, so they would first come to the town planner.
Right, but I mean, if it's determined not to be a use that's similar, they can make.
So if it's determined, correct, so if it's determined to not be used similar, it would still have to go through planning commission, but town council is the approving body.
Yeah, I understand that, but what you said is they would go to town council, and I was like,
Approval would go to town council, but they would still have to go through a public hearing because they'd be amending the town code, and any amendment to town code would require a public hearing at planning commission.
so they basically go to planning commission and say, would you amend your town code to allow this use? Okay. All right. Boy, this is a lot of words for something that could be summarized in just.
And then just to clarify, I did misspeak, it is the community development director or town designee, not the town planner.
Oh, well, I know that the designee is going to be the town planner.
And then,
Yes, correct. If I may, right here, on that issue, Keith had changed it to town planner. Riker and I talked, I think it's best to say community development director or designee. The planner will be the designee, but we don't know if we're always gonna have a planner. So instead of having, to amend it later, potentially, hopefully not. We thought we would cover them by making it community development director or designee.
Okay. So,
Okay, just be clear, I just wanna be clear, so I'm clear. Who is our community development director?
Evening.
Thank you.
okay, so when we have this come up next week on the town council meeting, the regular meeting, we will have a resolution attached to this.
Resolution to, I'm suggesting you refer it to the planning commission for a recommendation.
Okay,
I just have a question, so there is, who designates the town designee? Is it the community development? Okay,
Yes,
okay,
community development.
that was the question. Thank you.
In reality, we would work together on it.
sure. But, it's like in the personnel manual, we have all this stuff in, because of when we adopted the county, the personnel manual. Says the mayor shall do this, the mayor shall do this, or the designee, or the
Yeah, no, I
designee.
get
I like, the designee's gonna be the town manager. Or we're going to amend the personnel code to say, personnel manual, to say the town manager shall remove mayor altogether.
Now, this is for only proposed new. Like somebody brings in a new business idea for a zone, particular zone, commercial, rural residential, it's not existing businesses that have to reapply, correct?
Correct, yeah. It's new use, and it would be specific to business uses.
So only the commercial or the highway resort zone.
Yeah, I mean, somebody could come in, if you allow for business uses currently in your residential zone, then they could come in and apply under the same umbrella. But they couldn't come in, for example, and apply for a multifamily housing development, because that wouldn't fall under business use.
So the example, Jim, that you could see also, which is a little variation, is when we prohibit certain businesses like a motel, they'll come in with a different name. And then that would be up to the community development director to see if it's similar or not to a prohibited use of the hotel or a new use, and whether it needs to go through our process or be denied, correct?
Yeah, so with a prohibited use, it would operate under that. If they were similar to the prohibited use, it would still be prohibited.
There used to be a book, and it's probably 30 years old, that did the same thing, that said, these are similar uses to motel or to heliport or to whatever. I don't know if that's in existence anymore, you know?
You said.
30 years.
30.
Yeah, I'm not aware of it. I know there's been a big push for a lot of municipalities to modernize their code where they allow for they have a category of uses more so than specific use, so they won't drill down into the difference between a convenience store and a grocery store. They'll have an overall category that covers both, and I would assume this is in response to that.
I have some particular questions. I think on, did I misread this? 1662.10.
Where are you?
16.62.10. Where? I don't have pages. I don't have pages.
16, what was the second number, please? 16,
Am I
26,
looking at the wrong ordinance?
16, 26?
You're on the right one.
Under review of known unlisted
Yeah,
business.
with you,
Page
I look at the uses. I don't have any. Oh, I printed my own off.
Oh, well, she gave you a file.
Yeah, but I made my notes on the one I printed off at home.
Okay, so 16 was
16, page 9, 16,
Okay, I'll start, yeah, there's the page numbers on it.
1662, what, 10 or 8?
10.
10, okay.
And I want to see, maybe that was corrected. When the administrative land use authority determines under this chapter that a proposed business use constitutes a new unlisted use, the applicant may apply for or request that the proposed be referred to the legislative land use, is that right, or?
The legislative land use amendment process,
Okay,
the process, which means planning commission first, because that's the process. It's not referred to the legislature, it's referred to the legislative land use.
I had misread that, so I was thinking that we needed a not, but we don't, not the way that is phrased.
Yeah.
So I had misread it earlier. Then the other thing I would say is, let's go to page.
Just what's the code, now that I know what they're doing, you just tell me the section,
I'm gonna go to the actual page, page 11.
okay?
F. two. The town council shall approve or deny the proposed new or unlisted business use within 60 days after determining the application is complete, provided the applicant responds to the request for additional information and appears at the hearing.
Okay, because it says, F says, after receiving the planning commission recommendation and conducting a public hearing, the
What's that?
town, look at F, section F.
Okay.
It says, after receiving the planning commission recommendation, conducting a public hearing,
Got it.
town
Then
council
that's
shall
my
approve,
question.
and then D is sub under that.
Okay, so it's after the, I want to make sure it was after the planning board recommendation.
So we've got 60 days to, so it sounds like what it should say is the town council shall approve or deny the proposed new
Right.
business use
That-
within
that
60
was
days
fine.
after the planning commission determines
Yeah,
That was
the
my,
application is.
that was my follow-up question.
So,
Is,
she said that's a valid point. The language, that after determining the application is complete is inconsistent with the process, so we could change that to make sure it was after planning.
After planning commission.
yeah, that was my concern, yeah, after planning commission, and, and if we don't do it in 60 days, what's the remedy?
So right now,
And why do we limit ourselves to 60 days?
so we can change that timeline. State code now does require the town, make a decision within, it calls it a timely manner. But it does not specify the number of days.
But.
So 60, we could extend it.
45.
My preference, and I'd like to see what planning, our commission says, but change words from shall to should. Don't make it mandatory,
The only,
because you still have to comply with state law being under a timely process, and depending on what the approval process is, there could be valid reasons for you to go over the 60 days.
my suggestion, if we don't want the 60 days to be mandatory, my suggestion would be to remove them.
That's better yet.
Because my concern would be creating confusion in the code. We know that there's the difference between shall and should, but you're gonna have applicants who are gonna read that and gonna come in and say, hey, we're supposed to do
So
this.
you want us to just delete the words within 60 days?
But that's my preference,
Because
but I
it's-
would suggest that I could raise it with the planning and zoning commission. Because if we refer it down to them, they can then make a decision as to whether they should delete it. My preference would be to delete it. But
So then it would read, deny the proposed new or unlisted business uses after planning commission determines the application is complete and provides the, okay. That's how that would read.
yeah,
My opinion, I think 60 days is still kind of reasonable
I agree,
for us after planning commission has it.
exactly.
I do believe within basically a 2 meeting cycle, we can have that and vote on it.
I would hope so, but there's always an occasion that will arise that creates an issue.
I understand that, but I still think,
Well, we could say within a reasonable time. Instead of 60 days, we could just say, what is the?
within a reasonable time, like
Let's
state
So
code.
we can just mirror the state code says.
Let's just do that,
Let's put ourselves in a box
yeah,
when that one time comes.
Yeah, true.
because things can happen, there can be people missing and we don't have a quorum or this or
Sure.
that, we don't have a, so let's just say within a reasonable time. And then we'll just mirror the state code.
Yeah,
And then, let's see, I think that was all my questions. And then I just have on page. Let's see. What would be page? Page 10, I believe. Page 10D. Town council may modify, replace, expand, or otherwise revise. Can reject.
I think we can.
Yes.
We can reject, because I know that when we first talked about this with Heath Snow, when we first talked about this new code section with Heath, he said, town council can reject it.
Yeah, so that's, I would just have rejected there.
So that section of the code is merely stating that what the applicant submits is not binding in the sense that the town council can expand, modify, or change that. But when it's talking about the actual approval, that's under F. Under that section where it's under, and it does state approve with conditions or.
If I'm an applicant, I'm gonna come in and say, doesn't say you can reject it, and then you're gonna have to point out the other section. Just saying that, we have the right to reject, let's tell them up front. You really don't need that last paragraph when you say it's not binding. So really, that second sentence is not binding, then it's not binding on the town council.
Yeah, and I think that, well, the intent here isn't necessarily to speak to the approval itself, it's to the content of the text amendment.
However, I get your point, I
We
see his point, because there are people that come and say, it doesn't say you can reject.
so we can, I'll make sure that those cross-reference each other, and so that they either mirror each other in verbiage.
Or some, yeah, either mirror or cross.
Okay, my only, okay, I'll wait till you're done, and then
Oh,
was that your last one?
that's it on this, but I do have a concern about a process.
In here?
We're gonna refer this to the planning commission. And we have 4 things that we're gonna refer to the planning commission today.
Okay, let's go to that later, because you're gonna tell me how you want me to add 2 new members to the planning commission, is that where you're going with
Well,
this?
it is, but let me, since we started it, so everybody can think about it until we get to it. My concern is we've got 3 planning commissioners, we don't have 5. And I'm concerned about referring all this to them when they're real busy now. So we either need to appoint somebody before we refer this, or when we refer this, we don't hold them to that referral time limit that we have of 2 months.
So how many things do they have on their agenda right now, because I don't even know.
They have the general plan, which they've been working on for a long time.
And that's it?
Well, they got
Other than the overlay ordinance,
Overlay, the grading
the
ordinance.
what? Okay,
Overlay.
yeah, I know about the overlay.
But I think the overlay's been
Ordinance,
gone.
we should-
I think the overlay is gonna die too, so then what do we have, the grading ordinance?
Grading should be on the next.
But then again, you don't wanna, you got three council members. It's time to give them the help that they need. Rather
Okay,
than
And
five.
as I said, once, in my opinion, once the overlay ordinance dies, I'm perfectly willing to apply to appoint some commissioners. I don't wanna put I feel it's unfair to ask 2 new people to come in and serve on the planning commission right when we're in the middle of a controversial ordinance that's got people upset that are, it's basically pitchforks, and they're brand new, and everybody's sitting there going, oh my God, what have I agreed to? I'm like, why? I think it's unfair to put that on them as when they're brand spanking
We
new.
already got one new person.
I know.
And then second, putting additional work on individuals 3, which is gonna create delays if one of them is sick or one of them's out of town.
Okay,
I
so
think
here's
it's-
what I proposed today, and I had Crystal propose this about 2 hours ago. And so we're gonna mail this out to everybody in town, and we're gonna see who we get. And then there may be nobody. We may get people we don't want on planning commission. But this is what's going on. So she's gonna send it tomorrow.
No, that's
Okay.
fine.
All right,
That's
that
fine.
answers your question.
I'm just
Here's another
concerned,
one. Here's another one for you. Okay,
I'm just concerned about our planning commission that has been working hard.
okay, so that's going out in the email tomorrow. So my issue is you have numbered this back to the new and unlisted business uses. You have listed this to 1662. But if you look at the, table of contents, under 16, we get to this section where there's the zones, and we have residential zones 32, 34. Then we have section 36, which is a reserved section. Then we have 38 is the agricultural zone, 40 is the commercial zone, 42 is the resort, 44 is highway resort. Then we have 46 and 48 reserved. I think because this applies to business, the zones, that we should consider either changing the number from 62 to either be 1646 or maybe 1636. So look at the table of contents online at our in our code. And then you go to title 6, you go to 16, which is the land use code. And then you go down, starting with 1630, it says zones and uses, and then right below that are all the different zones. And I think, given that this is talking about adding new uses to the business zones, that maybe this should be in line with where those zones are instead of being way down at the end. So I wanted you guys, what do you think about, or you can ask planning commission what they think about the number.
I don't think that's a bad idea. I mean, I'm looking at that and instantly I get drawn to 46.
Okay, that's where I went to. I didn't even realize 36 was reserved until just now.
But in that aspect of things, instead of burying it way down, you put it basically at the bottom of your zone classification.
The only thing I need to do is see what we did in open space, so. I don't remember
I think it
what,
was on our long.
let me see, we did that, we just did that, last month or the month before. Where we had the, where we passed the open space with, the
Yeah.
prohibited uses. So we should be able to find that. That was this year, correct? Where we did the prohibited uses, that could have been in February. Let me see what's in February.
I don't remember.
I'm looking at February's regular meeting. Oh no, we had a special meeting. Let's see what the special meeting was. Development agreement. Okay, that was that special meeting. We had a special meeting where we talked about the open space zone because it was just me, you and April, because you were gone and you were gone.
Yeah, I was gone. That would have been March.
March, okay, I went to February.
That would have been March. I was gone. Or I listened to it online. I was probably on a meeting online in March.
Okay, here's the resolution for the open space amendment going to planning commission. That's in
Oh,
February.
you're right. It was at the special meeting because I was gone at the special meeting.
Okay, so let's go to March. I'm in February.
So whenever that special meeting was, I thought it was February.
3/4/2026 open space, okay. This March 3rd, 2026. Okay, this one, that 16.36, it said it was reserved, that was assigned to the open space. So that's no longer reserved, so 46 would work. But we can ask, dang that light. Yeah, because it's coming off the windshield of the windows of the car. I suppose we could ask planning commission, or we just change it to 36 based on our discussion.
Yeah, I prefer to see something that was a number. Not
Already in place?
additional question.
So let's just make it 46. You guys think so?
I think so, it seemed very logical to me, instead of burying it
I'll show you.
in no man's land.
Make it a little cleaner.
Yeah,
So here we are in chapter 16. You know, there's just the land use code. Okay, so it's land use code, you get down here. And we got chapter 30 is housing uses, and we have 33 residential, 34 resident reserves. Agricultural, commercial, resort, highway, reserve. So doesn't it make sense if this would go one right in, one down? Okay, so I think we should make it 46.
No reason to still it.
Okay, so we'll go with 46. And the rest of it can go, it's fine, just make it 46 and. Okay. Okay, so then, now that we've definitely disposed of this, so,
It's a good idea, thank you.
what is,
This ordinance.
okay, so then Crystal is gonna send this out tomorrow to everybody on her email list. Okay. All right, that's it for this one? Are we done and ready to move on? Okay. All right. Paul, did you read this one next, the joint utility, committee ordinance, okay? So I will let, Mark, do your intro, and I assume your hand, sorry, my mind.
Yeah, no
we're
worries.
just like, what am I doing here?
I understand.
Okay,
And really,
okay,
thank you, Mayor. So, fairly recently, and before my time, I know the council had, changed and revamped the, way we review, additional use permits, for example. And, there's been an identification of some conflicts, potentially the way it was designed, so, this is an ordinance that would, it would revamp that process a bit, but as a practical matter, it's gonna be similar process, the same staff and outside utilities are gonna review. And with that, I'm gonna
hand it over to.
hand it right over to Riker. Again, this was in the works before I came. I've gotten up to speed on it, and now we're ready to discuss it with the council and recommendations and refer it to planning commission for recommendation. So with that, Riker.
So as Mark said, the current Virgin Town Code establishes a development review committee. And the development review committee has been delegated authority to approve certain applications in the town code. The issue with this is there are members, as the development review committee is defined, there are members of that committee that are not town staff or town officials. They're representatives of Hurricane Valley Fire District or Ash Creek Sewer District, Special Service District. Entities that do not have approval or should not have approval authority under the town, but currently do under the DRC code. What this ordinance aims to correct is it aims to change the DRC into a joint utility committee. This would be a technical body that would provide technical review on applications, similar to what the DRC already does, but it would not approve any applications. It would have no approval or recommending authority. The community development director would be the approving entity, would replace the DRC in each instance where it is designated currently in the code as an approving entity. DRC would still, now JUC would still review each application would apply to it, but in the capacity that it's intended to, as those utility providers provide comments and allow applicants to make the necessary adjustments prior to final approval by the approving entity, with the community development director, or in some instances, maybe the town engineer or when they're elevated to the planning commission or town council. One of the main things that this ordinance does is it does establish the JUC as exempt from the Open Meetings Act. As you'll see in the memo that I provided, this is something that if the town council were to refer this to planning commission, my suggestion would be to have the town attorney review this provision of the ordinance specifically, to make sure that they're comfortable with that and that matches their assessment as well.
So you're recommending the attorney review this before it goes to planning commission?
Specifically for the Open Public Meetings Act considerations.
Okay,
What this ordinance also allows for is flexible coordination, so, currently the DRC is required to meet a minimum of once per month. From a practical standpoint, and with the increasing deadlines placed on municipalities from the state, that can frequently be not frequent enough. And what this allows is for those reviews to happen through your civic review portal and digitally, instead of having to convene the entire JUC committee. Their review is still required, their comments are required, but they're not required to meet in person to discuss it. But that option is still in there. If the town does prefer an in-person meeting, it just allows the flexibility there to move between those two different meetings.
so is that what some other towns do with this, what you're calling the flexible coordination methods? Okay,
Yeah, more and more communities are going to, they do tend to hold a standing meeting, but it is more for coordination on the reviews that they are already doing and that they have already received through the electronic means.
and so all the utilities do at these joint utility meetings is say, yes, the fire district, for example, will say, yes, we're good with it, or we're good with it if you do X.
They may provide comments specific to that. Lots of times, especially if they've received a digital request to review it, they'll say, we're currently reviewing that, we'll get our comments to you by this time. But they'll provide their comments, their written comments would be provided to the applicant in the application portal. The other thing to consider with that, the other reason for that is that a lot of newer mandates from the state are requiring written comments from the town or from any technical reviewers, so.
Which is what is in the
Which
report,
is what's in civic review now.
and you can print it out and say, here it is.
Correct, or they can access it online.
Well, yeah, they can all access it online. So the JUC is just the utility company saying yes, 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 or no, no, no. And then after they do their thing and the applicant addresses all their concerns, then what's the next step?
So then,
Is that in here?
yeah, so this ordinance specifically addresses what the JUC does and then changes the approval authority. The biggest issue with approval authority that you currently have in your code is the DRC is the approving entity for preliminary plat. They're for final plat. For one of your plats.
Yes.
This changes that and makes the community development director the approval authority for that, but still requires JUC to review that and provide comments to that effect. We still want them to look at the subdivision improvement plans, we still want their comments. And we would hold the applicants to those comments, but the approval entity should be somebody who's either on town staff or specifically a town official.
And so is this section, if you're looking at the ones with page numbers 23, if not, we're looking at section 16.20.14 is, is this where we're talking about what comes after the JUC is all done with it, what, 16.20.1?
So that's how it will be coordinated, where it goes after JUC, it will be determined by each individual approval process, so it's like subdivision's gonna have what it has, but if we designate someone else as the approval authority for a site plan, then that's gonna follow the site plan process, so if that is different, it's not gonna follow the same process as subdivision.
Okay, So not every application has the same review process.
Correct, so not every application would have the same approver. But each application, each applicable application would go to
JUC, I get that. But after that, it goes,
Mhm.
Depends on what's required.
okay,
And if I may add, really back to your question about, in person or Zoom, so the past couple of years as a community development director, I was on this committee, and we did, virtually, and it worked well. Really, it's just kind of a different way to skin a cat. The same agencies are gonna review as they currently review, the same staff are gonna review as they currently review. It's, what's a little different is the approval authority, which in my experience has been a planner with the community development supervision.
now I know that, Heath had wanted us to amend the subdivision ordinance practically from the day it passed. He's wanted us to amend it about who approves. He did not like the DRC being the approver for subdivisions. And they were approving the plat, right? Final plat, is that what it was?
Yes.
That he wants changed? Because he was like, these utility companies should under no circumstances be the authority that is approving a subdivision. And so, for the town, on behalf of the town, so we still need to amend the subdivision ordinance.
This was.
Where is that?
Yes,
Where?
so that's on, in the subsequent
The last
section.
page, the very last page, okay. Oh, here it is.
Yeah, so amendment the energy statement of subsection 161812 F1.
Got it, okay. 18. Oh, yeah, 18 is the subdivision, okay. Okay. Oh. I figured you have issues.
No issues, I just have questions.
Okay,
I don't have a problem with the process, it makes sense.
okay,
It's, in today's world with the DRC, we're trying to skin two cats.
Mhm.
And here, we're just dealing with the utility portion of that. So this makes sense with Zoom and outside individuals, that makes sense. I do have just a couple questions, and it would be dealing with page 22. At the top of the page 3, and it talks about the participation. And here's my question, and I know the answer, but I'm gonna raise the scenario. Unless otherwise approved by the community development director, this would be people that are participating or serving. These are the serving or participating at the meeting. So my question is, and that's fine, I'm assuming if a new town council person comes on, Jim's worked for the town, so he kind of understands everything, but we get a new one in a year from now, and they want to see how this operates. Or I want to see how it operates to refresh my memory. I would assume if I went to the community development director, so I don't want to participate, I just want to observe on Zoom with you guys. What's your answer gonna be? Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
So that was the only thing that caught me is there may be other people that observe, but they would have to go through the community development chapter. Going to page 23, F. The last sentence, the sign off sheet may be required as a prior to the issuance of building permits, commencement of construction, a recordation of the final plat as determined by the town. I'm just thinking down the road, should we just add or other applicable permits?
in case there's other permits besides.
Yeah.
Or construction. we-
Yeah, maybe, who knows, maybe we do a CUP, maybe we have some other permit, instead of coming back to re-amend it, just add that or other applicable permits. And that would kind of catch it. And I'll be interested to see what he says, because he's the one that drafted the DRC regulations, so.
Cause it does seem like we're getting more permits, does it not? I mean, we're getting more permits than we can issue. So I can see what you're talking
Yeah.
about, which is, or other applicable.
And then, one other question, dealing with the membership, I'm sorry, sure.
Where are we?
It would be on, first page of the actual text of the thing, which is 2021, I think. What's that?
20 and 21.
I assume so, it's where
Membership starts.
16.20.04 B membership. Two, we don't have a zoning administrator anymore.
Yeah, it's our plan. He's a planner slash zoning.
Oh, is it? Oh, did we name a zoning administrator?
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay, then we're covered.
We're covered.
I forgot about that. I'm just thinking, wait a minute, we don't have
If
one.
we had a separate planner and zoning administrator, they're two different people, would we add the town planner as another person to attend this or no?
No, but
No.
No,
Okay,
It'd be zoning administrator, and whether that's combined position or separate one.
okay, so the town planner would not, if there were two different positions.
Correct.
Okay, all right.
the only question that raises now that you bring it up is, in the event that you had two separate positions that were zoning administrator and town planner, and the zoning administrator was indisposed,
You would
it
want
may
to
be
plan that.
beneficial to allow for the town planner to operate in their absence. And so you may want to say the Virgin Town zoning administrator or town planner
or
Town.
our designee.
or designee.
The reality is, we're all a team, you
Yes,
know, so multiple people are gonna be involved, you know, in these approvals, but yeah, for clarification, you know, could say zoning administrator or town planner.
or designee. That way you can designate somebody.
Sure.
It has to be somebody qualified.
Yeah, well, I can think of somebody right now in a particular situation where you're dealing with a specific permit, you may say, Charlotte, I'm not gonna be here, but you know everything that's about this permit. Would you work on that for me? Of course, with Mark's approval, but that's the first thing that came to my mind.
So it doesn't mean a designee by the zoning administrator, it could be the designee from the community development director could establish those things, okay.
Right.
The designee, okay.
Because he, as town manager, controls all the employees.
Yeah, I just meant, well, he's
Yeah.
also the director of
Yeah.
community development, so. So we're only in, I'll ask an aside with a question, but we're only in the second week, but does it, seem better to you, Mark?
100%,
Okay.
yeah. Yeah, it's great to be able to walk next door, the office next door,
So,
as things come up, yeah.
do
And
this.
have them right there for a quick answer, so.
So, Valerie, anything you want to bring up about this ordinance, or Jim?
No, I think it makes a lot of sense and I think it definitely was explained well and
Okay,
So Jen, it's cleaning things up.
housekeeping.
yeah, I mean, any non-employee of this town should not be voting on whether something.
recommending.
Or recommending, exactly,
To the planning commission to do whatever.
yes.
Let me go back and look at this, the page where you talk about other applicable permits.
Twenty-three.
Now, right now, the way the DRC is set up is when somebody has a conditional use permit application, it goes to DRC. With this new thing, if somebody comes in with a conditional use permit application, Is it gonna go to JUC
So
before it goes to planning commission?
it would depend on the project for. But more than likely, yes, it would, if it's gonna, if the utilities need to be involved in any way, it would have to go to JUC.
First,
Correct.
okay, because part of the reason for all this is because we didn't have, before the DRC. Projects would apply for conditional use permit, if it made its way to the plan, if it made its way to the planning commission. Then they would sit there and go over all the plans and say, what about this in the fire district so they would go over all these things that the utility companies are now doing. And that's why I wondered,
And part of this question might be answered by the next item that we're gonna talk about.
the site plan ordinance, okay,
So-
that might answer,
It,
okay.
yeah, in the end, go ahead. sorry.
Staff is, sorry, but your staff is not gonna bring anything half-baked. If we're gonna know from these utilities, companies, whether or not they have appropriate infrastructure to support the development.
I understand,
Yeah.
I just wanna make sure that this is before planning commission.
100%,
Okay,
yeah, planning commission, your little policy issues, they don't have to get into the weeds about.
well, conditional use permits go to
Well,
that approval.
Yeah,
And so that's why, until we get to the low impact CUP, but, right now, all the conditional use permits go to planning commission for approval. That's why I was
Yeah.
like, this needs to be done first. And so that it gets to them, and say, oh, yeah, the utility.
so, yeah, so the recommended motions from staff makes sense.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay,
That's why I have or other applicable.
yes, exactly. Cause I realized conditional use permits are not in this list, and that's what's like, wait a minute. The conditional use permits need to be here. Applicable conditional use permits, cause after we do the low impact CUP. Ordinance that's coming up, we're going back to kind of splitting them into.
But still, if they're
small.
false,
It involves utility.
they're false to utilities, they will have to be done before that too.
Yes, yeah. Okay, anything else on this before we set it aside and into the next one? Okay. All right, next one, preliminary and final site plan ordinance.
Thank you, Mayor. Currently, the town code includes some language on site plan approval that's very basic in nature. Riker has reviewed it and, is proposing, some changes that make it more specific, and I'm gonna let him, explain those things. And, again, it's a planning or management best practice that our code currently lacks. And so we want to, improve that language so that we can avoid any problems in the future. Riker.
So, as Mark stated, the current town code has a brief section about a basic site plan requirement for any zoning permit application. This has a general list of submittal items, but it doesn't establish a review process, it does not establish an approval process or approval standards. This proposed ordinance would establish a two-stage process. It would distinguish between a preliminary and a final review, and would establish a approval standards for each of those tiers. The way that this is set up is it would apply to all multifamily residential, commercial, industrial, and civic uses. So obviously not applying to residential buildings, those go through your preliminary and final plat process. Or on a lot by lot basis, your building permit process, but would not go through a site plan process.
So this completely replaces that small section that we presently have, that's only like a paragraph.
Correct.
Okay, so this completely replaces that, okay, and then just looking at what it says right now. This is. What it has now, that first paragraph. It says this, site plan shall be filed as part of any application prior to request for a zoning permit. What is a zoning permit?
That's fairly broad.
Yeah, that's what I was like, that's not a zone change.
No, it's not a zone.
It's a building permit, what's a zoning?
It would be, I don't know if it defines it in your definitions.
I don't think it
So I don't
does.
want to misspeak. Just pull it up real quick. Double check that. So it does not define that in your code.
You're right, it does not.
In my opinion, that would be any permit that applies to zoning or zoning uses. So any use permit, any conditional use permit, and
And we're getting rid of that anyway.
Correct. And that's not to say that a site plan would not be required for a conditional use permit or other use permits. It just means that we would define that in each individual application or ordinance. We wouldn't, as opposed to having the same site plan requirements for each and every application, there are specific things we want to see on some applications and specific things we do not need to see on others. So we would define those particular instances, such as a conditional use permit differently. And have different requirements for a site plan in that instance.
So no site plan is required for a residential, single family home.
No, they would submit their building permit, and their building permit has a site plan requirement in there, however, it has different requirements than what this is.
Okay, alright. Okay. Paul,
I need to look through this more and think about it. I just didn't have time to
okay,
been thinking about it, but I read through it. I don't have a problem with referring it down the planning board, letting them come back with it, because I would think about the thing that I didn't even think of. My only concern when I read this, and that's why I want to go back through. I want to make sure that the process ensures some type of input from the neighboring properties that are affected by whatever site plans increase. So that's what I want to make sure is that we got that covered somehow. Whether it's a hearing, whether it's through whatever process, or even just comments, but whoever the decision maker is needs to hear from the neighboring into places, because sometimes that will come up something that the decision maker had not followed. So I want to make sure that there's some type of input that can be taken into consideration.
The only issue with that I would raise for your consideration is public input on potential uses that may be displayed on a site plan should be had either at the conditional use permit hearing, if one is required, or at the zone change hearing.
Yeah, and that's what I heard you say, is that the process will already involve a hearing at some point. I just want to make sure that we don't let anything fall through the cracks.
So
But I agree with you.
yes, I just wanted to
Yeah,
clarify that. So like in a conditional use permit application, somebody would apply for the conditional use permit and may go through the approval process before submitting for a site plan approval until they have conditional use permit approval. And then they would go back.
right.
But at that point, yes, that would
Yeah.
happen.
Yeah, and so that's already taken care of because all the effects have been taken on that. Yeah, I'm thinking through some of the issues, especially when we have, Labrie, that we kind of make sure we don't have those issues again.
our children.
Yeah, so I just wanna kind of think about it, but that would be my one concern when it comes back up here, is to make sure that we thought about all the potential things that will be coming through, and to make sure that the neighbors had a chance to comment or submit material. That would be my only concern.
I guess my only concern with that conceptually is if you've got a permitted use, the development meets that permitted use and all the other requirements, setbacks, lighting,
Yeah,
they're all met. My concern is if you would introduce some kind of public comment into something that meets all the standards. And somebody might say, well, I don't want that here, you know?
Yeah.
It might, I just wouldn't want to create an expectation that somebody could push back on a use that meets all of our standards. If that makes sense,
it does.
if I understand what you're.
It does, but if you're dealing with something that is discretionary as far as a condition,
Yeah,
then how do you know what the impact is if you haven't talked to the
Yeah.
neighbors?
So are you
Well,
talking about it as from to the.
But I agree with the concept, you gotta be careful with permitted use, because if they meet all the standards, then it goes in,
Yeah.
and what you tell the neighbors is, I'm
Yeah, I'm
sorry.
not-
But are you just wanting this for neighbor awareness or for neighbor input?
Input, depending on what the issue is. Again, if you're dealing with something that becomes discretionary, and you can put a condition on it to mitigate an impact, how do you know what those impacts are without the neighborhood input or the affected property owner's input? Or some mechanism to figure that out.
But we do that already with zone changes. But not, but as you said, if all the criteria is met, there's not a lot anyone can say or do about it.
And what Riker was saying was if it's a conditional use permit,
Then
It goes
there's
to
already got a
hearing.
process.
Right,
Yeah,
As a process.
right,
and
That's
that's.
already got a process.
I don't think adding something like that into this
Is necessary.
is necessary.
that's where I'm going, okay.
I don't think we have to, I just wanna make sure that we ensure that,
Well, it's also, in
Neighbors
my
know what's
opinion,
about to happen.
but it's also, in my opinion, sometimes you gotta do your due diligence and listen and pay attention to what's going on.
There's that, but.
Well, who does that?
Well,
what,
I guess I might try to watch sometimes.
you got a permitted use in a restaurant next to a neighborhood.
Right.
And the person making that decision has the authority under the code to mitigate impacts. How do you know what those impacts are? And you caught all the impacts if you haven't got some process to receive notice what those impacts are.
And the only issue with that is that if it's a permitted use, they have the vested right to do that use.
They have the vested right, but if you can condition it, how do you know what conditions?
But if it's a permitted use, you cannot condition.
So,
Then you're gonna have a problem.
yeah,
So if it's a conditional use, then it would go to, like you're saying.
Right, exactly, that process.
That's,
Yeah, that's what I haven't thought through all this, but what I'm concerned about is to make sure that if we're going through this process, if there's a discretionary matter that we're having to put a condition on somebody, then how do you know what that impact is?
some of it is, staff. Often will, you look at the letter of the law and it's say, in that example, it's a setback, it's screening that's required. But if we anticipate some other issues, we may ask a developer to do some things that maybe aren't required by code, but we feel will mitigate issues there. So, staff works within the code to try to avoid potential issues, even if the development meets the letter.
If it meets the letter of the law, then you have no choice but to approve it because there's no discretion.
Okay, I have, something to talk about later that has to do with the overlay ordinance. And what I think is a way to resolve the overlay ordinance issue. And one of the things I have as a thought could possibly address what you're concerned about, even though we're talking about site plan, it could ultimately address what you're concerned about with the business and how it could, that comes in and its site plan and how it could, impact neighbors, and the neighbors need to know so that they can have some input. I have an idea, let's just put it that way, it's gonna come up, but this still is something I agree with you that neighbors need to somehow be advised.
Yes,
You know, we have. When there's a zone change, well, we have those public hearing signs that we're not using now, but, the red signs that go out when there's a zone change, that goes on the property to let you know, people know there's a proposed zone change for this property. What if, there was some sort of a sign that just went on and said there's been a site plan submitted? Look it up, check it out. I mean, you've got to put some onus onto the neighbors. You can't, they, as Jim was saying, they should be aware, they should be watching, and if they've got an empty lot next to them, they should be sitting there going, oh my gosh, what's gonna happen to that empty lot next to me? That's what's going on by me. And so, they need to be on the aware, just on the lookout. And so,
My problem.
I just wondered about a sign.
My problem wasn't with the awareness, it was with, once you're aware. And there's an issue that the neighbor knows, he communicates it.
right. I'm just saying these signs that could go up, say there's a site plan for this location, and the people around it should be able to see the site plan, come in and say, hey, can I see the site plan? I assume they could come in and ask to see the site plan.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, okay. So that's just an idea,
Yeah.
a way to work around
No,
it.
that's- That's fine with me, I put them on notice, and then if they have an issue, they go to the planner and say,
Can I
what
see
about
the
these
site plan?
what about this impact? Planner says. Yeah, it will be taken into consideration, or no, this is already permitted use, the code deals with it this way, no discretion, it's gotta be approved. I think that's fine too, but it's important for the neighbor to, the planner or whoever reviewing it to say, you know, I never thought about. You know, maybe there's an issue with how the setback is derived from, gulch that's running next to the property. Who knows? I don't know. Like I said, I'm just trying to think of issues to go through that, and I want to think about that before reaching back up here.
So you're saying you do not want us to send this?
No, I said, no, refer that, yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah, I'm not opposing it, it's.
I didn't know you were asking for one more month to look at. Okay.
No, I'll take a look at it before it gets back up here.
Okay,
I'm not gonna delay it, it's probably gonna come through. Planning board will probably spot any issues that I have to spot, because they're more familiar with all the issues that they get.
okay,
And by the time it comes up here, they'll probably say approve, with the recommendation of approval.
all right. So we are going to send this on to P and Z.
My only, I read on 30, the grading and drainage plan showing the following. My only thing would be, we have a grading permit basically on the table with planning commission.
Well, yes, that's
It is a cart before the horse type thing.
no, because that, they had it for public hearing
Yes.
yesterday,
Yesterday.
last night. And then they're going to talk about it at their work meeting, I think, and then probably vote on it next month. And then it'll come to us, and they still have to address this.
Okay.
The
No,
grading
that's
will-
fine, that's fine. That'll come before this will come back
Yes,
then.
yes,
Fair enough.
And then I would just suggest, because that's a good point, I would suggest. Changing that section, that requirement there to just point to. If the grading permit would be adopted, to point to the grading permit requirements.
so we would
Rather than
amend that to, we would amend this to say C, blah, 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 and
Mhm.
have a link.
And what the requirements in the individual
Requires
requirements.
that before it goes.
Mhm.
Well, the grading one is gonna come first
It
anyway,
is.
so then we'll know that it's going to be there, okay. Anything else on this one? No, okay, so The shuttle, next one is the shuttle stop ordinance. I thought you had drafted one, but you haven't. So this is just talking about, by the way, you always spell my name Kraus. You never, I've noticed in all of your little things that you type up, you always miss.
And now
the
we
E.
publish it on the.
I'm sorry, I should have told you.
And-
I probably should have.
We'll never.
I laughed every time, going, okay, that was how
No, I, percent, never hurt me, if you drive the S on my name, yeah, I'd have to bring it to your attention.
Okay, so,
There's an S on your name? Oh, I told you.
okay, so this is just asking,
I'm gonna defer to you on this
Oh.
one, Eric, 'cause this is yours.
so you want me to talk about this? Okay. Yes, we had initially, asked, Mark and I had a meeting, a discussion with Ryder, we had asked him to draft a shuttle stop ordinance. And this was sometime back in maybe January. I think that we had asked you to, and we talked about what we even discussed among ourselves, what would be the elements of the shuttle stop ordinance, blah, blah, blah. And then, as I thought more about the shuttle stops, and then I was wondering myself, how do the shuttle stops work in Springdale? And because if we had any shuttle stops here, as we would want them to work how they work in Springdale, where the bus pulls off, people get on, they can go down to another stop, get off, and walk around the town. And so I decided to ask, at Springdale, how do their shuttle stops work? And they're like, all the shuttle stops are in the UDOT right of way. And the town, in this particular case, Springdale's a separate, unusual case, and it wouldn't be this way necessarily for us. But the shuttle stops run by the National Park, by Zion, not the town of Springdale. But that's very unusual, that the park runs the shuttle inside the town of Springdale and so it's outside the park. They chose shuttle stops in conjunction with talking with local businesses. The national park installed the shuttle stops, although now, the town actually maintains the shuttle stops. So not one commercial business in Springdale installed a shuttle stop, nor do they maintain the shuttle stop. And they have absolutely nothing whatsoever to do with any shuttle stop, other than when the shuttle stop was, when the shuttle was first being implemented, they went and asked businesses, would you mind if we put a shuttle stop here? What do you think if we had a shuttle stop here? And some businesses said, no, we don't want a shuttle stop here, and others were like, hell yes, we want a shuttle stop here. And then later, of course, those who said no were like, what are we thinking? You know, because all these people get off the bus and they're missing their business. Although now with all the sidewalks there, the way everything works, people don't miss any of the businesses. But because of how the shuttle stops worked in Springdale, and we currently have in our code that a shuttle stop is a use in the commercial zone or the highway resort zone. Meanwhile, the way they do it in Springdale, it's not a use allowed, no commercial, no business puts it in. They don't run it, the town maintains it. And if we are going to do the very next thing on our agenda, which is the landscape agreement with UDOT, then when we do this landscape agreement and we landscape the UDOT right of way, we would put in shuttle stops as part of this landscape agreement. And, which is how Springdale has it, is they have this contract. And that's how they did all the landscape with the sidewalks and all the stuff that they have, is they have the landscape agreement. And so when we have, businesses here in town, they wanna put in their business, and then if they wanna put a sidewalk in the UDOT right away, they can. If they would like to put a shuttle stop in front of the UDOT right of way, they cannot. Because the way the state code is in a town, the only people who are allowed to maintain the, UDOT right of way inside municipal city limits is the municipality. Nobody else can touch the UDOT right of way, other than UDOT, of course. But they will not let a business touch their UDOT right of way. So the municipality can maintain it, and we would put in the sidewalk and we would put in the shuttle stop. So what my proposal is, based on that, we should not have a shuttle stop as a use that's allowed by any business in town, whether it's in the commercial zone or the highway resort zone. That's what this is, my proposal, and so this is to you guys what do you think? About removing shuttle stops as a use in the commercial or the highway resort zone. Because that then implies that the business would run the shuttle.
Right.
And we don't want the business to run the shuttle. At
Also,
least I don't want
Let's
the
face
business to run
it.
the shuttle.
depending on development that happens, you could have 20 shuttle stops, everybody puts in.
Exactly.
Right,
Which
or
is,
in this way,
it's control.
by the town. The town controls where the shuttle stops go. And figure out there should be one here, people can, towns can ride the shuttle just like they do in Springdale.
I'm assuming though that this would be done with the, Sun Train or whoever the.
No. Suntrain,
What if they decide they don't wanna stop at your shuttle stop?
well, they're not,
Have some kind of.
no, Suntrain, we were lucky we got the second bus stop over at Zion Bison. That was pulling teeth to get Suntrain to agree to a second stop in Virgin. There will never be another Suntrain stop in Virgin.
So what shuttle are we talking about then?
There will be one day, there would be a shuttle, but I'm just saying right now, let's take shuttle stop out of the,
Right.
out of the use.
Right,
Not allow, don't allow,
Got it.
business to put a
Okay.
shuttle stop.
okay.
That's what I'm saying.
But I'm assuming that if we were ever to decide we want to shuttle stop somewhere, we would check to see who were the providers out there
The
and get their
service.
input. I
Right.
think that's what you were saying.
No, I actually had a great idea as to who should run a shuttle in town. And you know how, what's his name, Jeffrey. Oh my gosh, he bought the bus and he bought the bus. I'm like, he could run the shuttle around town because he already has the bus. He bought one from the park.
What a double.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
I mean, that could happen, I don't know whether it's another provider, but yeah, if the town.
You contracted a provider
Yeah.
to do shuttles.
To do
Right.
those, you contract with private.
I.
It would still be a public service.
So this way we keep from having unwanted shuttles running around town that, so a business comes in and they put in a shuttle stop.
Exactly.
And then it's like, well, what's the purpose of your shuttle stop? When they, I don't know who they think, but remember we had someone who had approached the town 2 years ago and wanted to put parking lots all behind in the back, behind all the commercial properties. We wanted to do a whole line of, parking lots, and then he was gonna run a shuttle.
Mhm.
And this would be like, no, there's no shuttle stops, so. Anyway, okay. So this was, if you guys agree, then what, we would have Riker work on the very simple ordinance, delete shuttle stop from commercial and highway resort.
And if he doesn't get it done before Tuesday, we can, make a motion to refer it to library draft and then refer it down the planning board.
Well, I'm gonna ask him after the meeting
To draft.
to do it, so you don't have to worry about a resolution for that, but yeah, if we can get it done, great, if not. Okay.
Okay, so this is going to Riker. Okay, so this just leads into the, this agreement, master landscape agreement with UDOT. I thought that if we had the shuttle stop, thing saying deleting shuttle stops at the same time, we do a landscape agreement, they would dovetail with each other. And so this is this contract with, UDOT is, this is their contract, obviously, as you see this. They maintain, this is their contract that they require municipalities to sign if they want to landscape the UDOT right of way. As you can tell right now, when we go through town, we clearly don't have any kind of agreement to maintain the landscaping because it looks the way it does. As you drive through town. So I got this board from when we did the master transportation plan. And I got this just to show everybody and remind you that this is what is in the master transportation plan that we adopted. As to what would go along, well, I'll put it there, you guys know in here. And
I've seen it, so.
okay. This is what would be done along Highway 9 if we follow the design in this plan. And you can see here's design corridor trail. The multi-use trail is here. Then you've got a strip of landscaping, and then there's this a bike trail. And on the other side of the road, we just have a sidewalk. So that the multi-use trail is gonna only be on one side. And then we've got sidewalk, the rest of it is the sign here is just a small sidewalk, it's only 6 feet wide. We're over here on one side of the shared town is 12 feet wide. But this is what we're talking about, we could do this in the UDOT right of way, and that's the plan. And now, of course, we come up with some kind of a landscaping plan, it's not necessarily gonna be this one. But we would have design corridor trail, some kind of landscaping in the bike path. And over here, sidewalk, landscaping, and bike path. And so if we do this landscaping agreement, then we can do this. But if we don't do the landscaping agreement, we maintain the way we are.
It's not gonna cost,
It's what?
it's not gonna cost it, we just need to make the agreement so we can. in the
Exactly.
Future.
In the future, exactly, that's all it is.
I would assume that if they put some type of median dividers in there, people don't stay close to it.
If we, and this was gonna have a left turn lane all the way down the entire,
Good, good.
the entire town.
Have we heard from UDOT of what they're leaning towards,
For what?
type of road they're gonna be putting in? Because I'll just flat out say, they're a little temporary patching and
Oh,
painting.
yeah, no, it looks like it's not very good.
That is horrible.
How do you avoid having that turning lane turn into a passing lane? Because right
And
now,
that's why you put in the things
That's why you put in those
that,
dividers.
that's where you put in the dividers, that you have a left turn, lane, that's
That's
what you
information.
got it. That's what Paul's thing is. Right. So, and then once we have this in place, the landscape agreement, then it will kind of have a ripple effect on a couple of other ordinances, but we're not gonna discuss those right now. But it will have a ripple effect on other things, some stuff that's along the highway. On properties that are along the highway.
Mayor, if I may add one other thing,
Uh-huh.
there's another, well, just to dovetail on what you said, this would formalize and provide for improvements consistent with the plan. The secondary issue is, I believe in the past, we've had some private property owners who have property on 9 doing their own thing, if you will. And so, having this agreement with UDOT also would allow us and really require us, if any private property owner adjacent to 9 wants to make improvements, they have to get permission to do
From
so.
the town.
And it's gotta be from the town. So, I mean, UDOT, of course, doesn't wanna manage several private businesses along a road.
And that's why they have told them
And
no.
so they'll allow us to do it. So, my hope is going forward, we can avoid these informal improvements and actually formalize and improve the look. But I love it if some private property owner were willing to improve.
Well,
But they have to do so that it's not a site distance, creates a site distance issue or any other issues.
So the way this even came to my attention about 3 or 4 years ago was because a private property owner in town wanted to landscape UDOT right away. And and they contacted UDOT, they said, we can't, the town has to have this agreement. So they came to me like 3 or 4 years ago and said, could you get this agreement in place? And I've been like, we'll get to it, and so now we're finally here, 3 years later.
It's probably one of the first things, just so you know, that the mayor gave me. So
For the first day.
it took me too long to get it out here, perhaps, but.
But it turned out, it's okay because it works
It
well,
dovetails.
it dovetails with this one.
Yeah.
And, it's certainly possible that when it comes time to be able to do the landscaping, that some of these commercial property owners would contribute money for the landscaping in front of their place. And so,
Yeah, one of the things about seeing done in the other community in Montana, I don't know if we have particular laws in place with tax increment financing. So what they did is created a district along entryway corridor and did a TIF on it. And the property owners, of course, then participated in developing the plan that was approved by the town for so it's not one property owner doing this, now they're doing this. It was all the property owners getting together because there's an issue with that because it's.
yeah, we wanna have
Financing was a mechanism to finance the improvements. I don't know if we can do that in Utah, down how to work, but that'd be one avenue we could look at.
because definitely we want some sort of, plan for how we want this to look. It's like I've said, I like what Springdale has done, that they have that little low thing with the rope that goes along. I love what, Canab has with those big red sandstones, and then they've got like split rails going to them. I love what they've done, and, just, I'm like, we'll come up with something that's virgin. And, so we've got, once we get this, we've got plenty of time to then work on a design. So.
That might be an interesting thing to put out to the public too, of doing a visionary,
Sure.
and have.
Don't you wanna get some bison like they have in St. George?
We
And
have
have
bison in
bison.
town.
It's a joke, it's a joke.
We can come up with another animal.
I'm trying to remember what it is in Sedona. They have, it's not a boar, it's not a pig. They have some sort of animal that they have painted there all over town.
Saratoga Springs, New York,
What do they have?
home of the thoroughbreds. They put
A
out
horse?
all kinds of horses through town
Oh,
one year.
okay.
Guess what happened?
Somebody stole
Oh, no, they were knocked over, they were jumped on,
them?
half of them were destroyed within 3 weeks.
Okay, well, I guess we won't do that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they have
Cows.
they have cows, they have bison, they have horses, they have bears.
So I still will have Keith, even though this is UDOT's agreement, and it's not like we can make changes to the agreement, they're dictating the
I can have
terms.
her do it, but I don't know that it's.
It's gonna make it.
Why?
So this beginning part here is landscape maintenance agreement. Oh, this was a sample, because this is the one from Springdale.
Yeah, that's.
And that's because I believe Springdale is one of the first ones that they have done something like this with, because now where we have the agreement that Springdale had, we would actually just be signing this, right? This thing that we
Yes.
got.
Yeah.
So our agreement
That
would
is-
not look like it,
That's still.
that's the agreement. And so I had gotten a copy of the landscape agreement from them in the last fall or last summer. And then Mark called to make sure if there was an updated one before we put it on here, and it sure was, March 3rd, 2026, they
updated this thing, so.
Would you envision signing the agreement from basically town line to town line, east to west?
Yes,
Okay,
that's my thought, is it goes border.
might as well, if you're gonna do it for one piece, you might as well do it throughout them.
That would be my thought. So it would be. Does our town limit actually start right there at that wall outside Desert Gardens, or does it extend a little bit?
I thought it extended a little
I
bit.
don't think very far.
I don't think it's very far, 'cause that welcome to Virgin sign is so close to the wall, and it's because we had some little space to put in. That made me think the town boundary is just right there. So I just wondered. Okay. So we shall, I guess, vote on this next week on whether to authorize me to sign the agreement. Okay.
So it does a funny thing here, but that's not SR9, you know?
That's beyond.
Yeah, I know, but I'm just saying, this is the boundary. On
That might
SR9.
That might be why our town welcome to Virgin sign had to be so oddly raised,
Right.
because we couldn't go in the field.
Right, right.
Okay, so this will be next week for us to look at. And then I put on. I had here these two ordinances, this was not on the agenda, but I had, these put on SharePoint today.
I did not see that, so.
Well, it was just,
Yeah,
you wouldn't have seen it. And so I Crystal printed these off. And so, we have, one of these is, the duplex ordinance that Cameron had written. And that was planning commission voted on Cameron's ordinance on October 14th. And then sent it on to the town council. And we set at the October 21st town council meeting, we said we were setting aside Cameron's ordinance on the duplex until such time as we got the ordinance on duplexes from the other one that planning commission had been working on. And then this ordinance, we actually looked at in November. The November meeting, we actually went over this ordinance from planning commission that talked about height limitations, land suitability, water, wastewater. They also had adopted the regulations for a duplex. They defined a duplex and gave the regulations for a duplex in this ordinance. So we actually have two competing ordinances, although this one from not Cameron's ordinance, but the other one that we looked at in November, I consider that like half of addressing the direction that we had given planning commission when we asked them whether or not we should have duplexes in the commercial zone. This ordinance, not Cameron's ordinance, but the other ordinance that we looked at in November, and I printed it off again, even though we went over it in November. Excruciatingly, in my opinion, how much we went over it, and if you remember, there was this big argument with, I say argument, I'm using argument in the legal sense, not in the real argument sense. That, we had this big discussion about floodplain versus floodway with Misty and just all of that, that was when we discussed this. And so. What I see, the reason why I see this as half of the answer to the duplex direction from town council is because all this does is amends chapter 8 and puts in regulations for a duplex, but it does not make the duplex a use anywhere. And the only thing it says here is, it defines the two-family dwelling as is in the village overlay. And so, and then it makes it, you can tell by the regulations that they were intending for it to be a conditional use. From these regulations, but all this is standards for a duplex, but it doesn't make it a use. This one that we got from Cameron makes a duplex, defines a duplex in the definition section, which is chapter 2. And then it gives, it makes two-family dwelling a permitted use in the commercial zone. And then he lays out regulations for a duplex. Now, my personal opinion, I would make some changes to the regulations of a duplex in the commercial zone. What he did here is he took the language from, if you're looking on this page, is section 3, where it says permitted uses, and then it has to be two-family dwellings. Oh no, I'm sorry, section 4.16, where it says two-family dwellings. He took the exact language that we have in the residential zone and the rural residential zone, where we restricted the size of a single-family home. And I would argue that, we will not do that big of a home for a duplex. That 4,800 square feet, if you make that a duplex, that'd be 2,400 square feet, I mean, that's huge. And to me, a duplex is small, and it's not huge, not a huge thing. And so, and remember, Valerie and I saw a little small home, about a year ago for, that we thought was absolutely perfect. It was a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom home. It was absolutely everything anybody would need for, if you were, say, living in a duplex or an affordable home or whatever. It was perfect. And we were like, this is what they should be. And I think that home was maybe 1,500, maybe 1,200 square feet. I don't even know if it was 1,200 square feet, but it was perfect. And so to me, I would maybe cut that in half, or maybe make it 3,000 square feet, but definitely not 48.
Right.
Because if you want to see what a 4,800 square foot home on a 1 acre parcel looks like, just drive over my house. And,
That's 8,000.
But you,
oh, is it?
The one across the street from you,
Yeah.
first floor,
Are you
second
sure
floor,
it's
it's almost 8,000.
Have you looked at the plans to see if that's how much it is?
No, I can tell just from the size that that's huge. That's a lot bigger than 48.
Because the way our ordinance reads, it says 40, the way our ordinance reads for residential that is copied here, it says 4,800 square feet of living area, or, and I believe we said 15, not 12,
Correct,
of the parcel, whichever is greater.
right.
So they went 15% is greater. And so that's how they came up with the size of that house. And so, I would not have this at all. I would make this maybe 3,000 square feet, maybe for a duplex, 1,500 each side.
yeah, and considering a garage or, you know, as well. Not to open a can of worms. But, what is the thinking behind just allowing them in the commercial zone?
That's what this does.
I know, but why?
What happened is,
Why not let them, why not allow them in a rural residential zone?
we might,
Or why not create a buffer zone that's more multi-residential?
because right now with what the overlay is trying to do with that kind of a situation, there's just not that much room. Between commercial and residential.
No, I'm not talking about overlay, I'm talking about a separate zone that's multi-family zone.
Well, what I had proposed, and I went back and I found,
And people can opt in, if they want it, they just do zone change.
I found that maybe. I found that 3 years ago, I went back and found my notes, 3 years ago in 2023, I proposed at a town council meeting that, the planning commission be asked to, create a workforce housing overlay zone that would be affordable housing. And largely it was gonna be duplexes. And so, in my mind, if we were, this was done just because we had a request, whether or not somebody wanted to put a duplex on a piece of property that was zoned commercial. And so we asked, should we allow the duplexes in commercial? And that's how this got started, purely because somebody asked that they put a duplex on a piece of property that was commercial. And we said, well, I don't know, should we allow duplexes in commercial? And that's how this all got started.
But Val, I think you're raising the point to allow more duplexes throughout town through other zones. I think the question becomes is, on the commercial land, with how valuable that land is for commercial, how many duplexes are realistic are gonna go into a
Not
commercial?
very many.
Person, so I can think of one and probably one only, that would be Tom's.
That's the big person who started. this.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's gonna use their land for
Duplexes.
duplexes.
I don't think they are either, because the, ones who called me about their upset over the, good neighbor overlay, all said, we're never gonna put this affordable housing on our commercial property. It's not financially feasible, they weren't gonna do it.
But the
And
only,
so you're right, they're probably not going to.
the only exception I can think of is, I think Blackhorn, a little bit of the hearing I got, was talking essentially about a PUD.
I was just gonna say,
And on the plan unit developments, where you put commercial and residential together and create this plan unit. I love plan unit developments if you do them right, and it adds flexibility to the zoning and all that. Yeah, then you might see duplexes in the commercial area because it's tied with the commercial process. But other than that, I can't think of anybody that will come in and do
Right.
duplexes.
So we're thinking what, say residential, rural residential and commercial, or just residential and rural residential?
Or create also another zone, in some case somebody wants to do a multifamily,
Well, what my
they have to do a zone change, but.
But my problem with the zone change issue is that you could end up going down, let's say down a street where there's rural let's say your street. Or the whole thing when you turn on 700 West and because it's not necessarily subdivisions like what you have over here in Rio or in Desert Gardens. And you're driving down the street, you would have rural residential, no, oh, this is a different zone, this is rural residential, oh, this is a different zone, you would have patchwork zoning all over the place in your residential
Right,
area.
right.
So to me, I think it would be easier to just make it a permitted use or a conditional use, whichever one you want to do in the residential zones, and you're gonna put it in residential zones. I just don't wanna see this patchwork, zone.
You'd have to find the location.
Why?
If you were gonna do. To answer your question, you might deal with it with the location of where you would put that zone. So,
Oh,
I'm not,
so,
I'd have to think about what you're saying, but I think there's a way to solve that, maybe you don't have that problem. But I don't know, I have to think through it. And I think that the way you do is where you would allow location of that type of zone.
so if we had a zone, how is that any different? If we had a zone that would allow a duplex, how is that any different from what my idea about the workforce housing zone? Because it was, I pictured it being duplexes.
Not
Or
just,
small homes.
different name.
Just a different name, but the same zone.
Yeah, yeah.
If I may, whether or not it's affordable or attainable housing is one thing. I think you started, and Riker, you can help me out with this, but you start with allowing for multifamily, whether that's duplexes or something greater. And then a developer determines if it's market rate or if it's affordable typically.
Well,
But there is a, you know, the quandary is you've got single family and commercial. And, you know, I'm used to single family, multifamily, and
Yes.
commercial. And so we're trying
and I understand
to,
that.
we're trying to cut
I
up a pie has a missing piece,
understand,
so.
this,
It's-
this,
We're trying to
this zone,
apply
this zone, I
that to a
understand.
tiny piece that's already cut up all over the place.
Yeah, but there may be, I mean, there may be areas that are not necessarily commercial, could be residential, but along, you know, 9, for example, that might be right for rezoning to a new, whether it's PUD or multifamily. But
Well, we have quite a lot of, we have a bit of rural residential land.
Yes, this zone rural residential,
Exactly, and that
and
might
they
be,
could come in and rezone to this property, this zone
Exactly.
you're talking about.
exactly, but that might make it more, more palatable for a developer to do something if we would allow.
Something more than residential.
Exactly.
And
Red single family homes.
Exactly.
And the other thing is that somebody's coming in with a big piece of property and they wanna rezone it all to commercial and say, you know, this all looks good for commercial, except for this part right here bordering the residential area. You know, would you consider doing
Mhm.
multifamily as part of that zone change?
it's a tough nut.
Yeah.
Based on circumstances.
Yeah, the buffering is the standard transitional way to go.
So what do we want to do, given what we're talking about here? What do we want to do with these two ordinances? And the reason I say this one that was, this is Cameron's ordinance, that's only commercial zone. And we're talking about why commercial, as you brought up, only one person probably is gonna put a duplex on a piece of property that's zone commercial, nobody else will.
You never
Because-
know, though, you never know.
But I'm saying we predict that it would not,
Right.
because the commercial property is too valuable, they're not gonna put a duplex on it.
So it's a pass through planning and zoning, like put them on and we either
They already
deny.
did, they already did.
That's what I mean, like here, let's either reject it, deny it, or send it back.
Well, we don't need to send it back,
Then
they
let's
already,
take-
they already sent it to us.
Then we'll deny it or approve it.
That's what I wanna know. Well, if we sent it back, well, why would we? be
Well, we
sending it
might,
back?
depending on, we may come up with something that says, we don't think this is complete enough, would you consider this? I'm not anticipating what we're gonna decide, let's just make a decision on the ordinance, is what I'm saying.
Okay, that's what I want to know.
Let's get them off our desk,
Okay,
your
so,
already been asking about, pass out or deny it, get it out.
okay, so this one this was Cameron's, this is the other ordinance, planning commission. That, gave us just standards only, and not giving us, not making it a use in a zone.
Well, they talk about the village overlay.
Yes, I know.
Right.
They're saying a duplex is in the village overlay
Right.
zone, a zone that we do not have.
Exactly.
So therefore, how can we adopt this for something that gives a definition for a zone that we don't have? And the reason I'm saying this is half of the answer is because then we had to have the village overlay, which is now what is being called a good
More
neighbor.
likely, you
A
know,
good neighborhood.
more likely, hold that in advance until we have a use somewhere for a duplex. Depending on what happens with cameras. If camera passes, then do you need this other one?
No.
Yeah.
If
cameras
Cameron
fail,
fails, I don't know why we need this either.
well, we don't need that one yet, but we wanna table it.
Indefinitely, I mean, how long, 2 years?
Table it till there's a use somewhere for it.
But my question is,
Till you come up with your low income or your workforce housing zone, then we probably implement. Or we implement.
but how long can we hold?
You can table it for as long as you want.
But to me, I mean, I know it's been through the public hearing, and they
Oh, I see
voted
what you're
on it,
saying.
they sent it to us, I mean, how long, really? Before you say, the stuff that's in here doesn't even matter anymore, because life has changed.
Yeah, well, that's a good
And
point.
so my question is, do we vote on both of these? What do we do with these two words?
I say we vote on Cameron's.
vote on Cameron's, and if that doesn't pass, well, we put that on to. And then we just deny it, and both of them, because then it's no longer pending.
Right, it's done, it's done,
And then
okay.
if we come up with a use later on that's for duplexes, it won't be hard to revise that one and.
Right, you can bring it up and make some changes.
Yeah, send it back to planning.
All right, so we're going to put on the
You were
agenda,
gonna say something, I'm sorry, I interrupted Jim.
yes,
To me, cause this is still new and I'm gonna take time reading all of it over and over. But with Cameron's straightforward, to me, just what I'm seeing, straightforward. Yes or no, that's
that's it.
nice and easy. This other one, too many other variables thrown in, even to vote on right now.
That's where I'm going, so what
Right.
do you do? Because it's been sent to us. It's been, if the planning commission's voting on it, they sent it to us. Do we just deny it and say, okay, fine, we'll bring it back when the rest of it is prepared? Or when there, as you say, when the time arrives and there's a use for it? But we can't just hold on to it, hold on to it, hold on to it, hold on to it. Times change. We could have a sewer system come in the meantime, and this thing is talking about septic capacity, so it wouldn't be. You can't just sit there and say, okay, now we're gonna adopt this ordinance, and oh, we're gonna make a change 2 years later, but we don't have to go back to a public hearing, that's not gonna work.
What you would do is you end up tabling it, and then the sewer comes in, then you take this ordinance, bring it back off the table, and refer back to planning commission for.
So this one for, and I'm gonna go back to what you were saying about cameras, which was just vote yes or no, but as we were just discussing, why are we gonna just limit it to commercial? Because this is only making it in commercial. So, do we, this is where you were saying maybe we send it back, or we,
Well, because there's issues with sizes in here, it's,
well, the size, we can make a change on that.
Yeah.
And it does not have to go back to planning commission, we can make those changes. It does not have to go back for a new hearing. We could always adopt this and then amend later, adding two family dwellings into another zone, I don't know. Or we can deny it, that's fine, we can do that too.
I agree with it, we gotta do something.
We've got to do something to both of
Put us on and where the discussion takes us.
Okay. Okay. All right, so we can put it on for next week?
Sure, I'm leaning towards denying it because. Don't know how many we're gonna get in the commercial zone.
Well, there's that, and so I was gonna ask you, well, I was debating asking you if you were gonna deny, you obviously wanna.
Right now, I'm leaning towards denying.
Why?
and because this essentially is spot zone.
No, it's not.
Well,
No, it's already a zone.
no,
The
no,
zone's
I
there.
understand,
We're just
but
adding new uses.
well, when I say spot zoning, it's basically one homeowner.
Yeah.
One. Yeah.
So,
One situation.
yes, this is for one home, right? So if we were to, say,
And then,
we're just throwing this out there, that if we said we would allow it for residential or rural residential, then you can come in and ask to rezone as well.
yeah, I was gonna say, there's different ways that he wanted it in commercial, that's one way to do it. The other way is to add it to rural residential, and then he rezones his property. Third way to do it is create a multifamily use and zone, and then he comes in and
Still has to have.
Still doesn't.
don't change to put that in, so it depends on how we wanna view how our community should look.
Mhm.
So that's my thoughts.
Okay,
So just so I'm clear, we're going to add the two family dwelling ordinance,
both of these,
both of them.
both of these are gonna get put on first to vote on.
All right.
Do we have some other planning ones that we need to?
I have to go back, there's some, but I don't even know what they are.
Put them on.
They approved two last, or they recommended two last night. One was the right of way fence
Mhm.
encroachment that you drafted. And then they recommended the open space, zone amendment to exempt federal and state lands.
Okay. So do we want to put those on for vote also? My gosh, we're getting wrong. Okay.
My preference is, just like these, let's knock them out.
Okay.
And I think they have some other ones, but when Darlene's here, we can ask her, and then we'll put them on the name.
Well,
In those two, the council referred to planning.
Yeah,
commission for
but we want-
recommendations, so hopefully you're ready to vote.
okay, so we've got the fence, the open space, federal land exemption. And then I know one of the ones that they have sent to us was a low impact CUP, but we're redoing that one. So that one will leave, we won't vote on Burgundy. Well, we can vote to send it back when he's done with his, what you're working on there. Okay,
Yeah.
And recently, because one of my concerns with that open space. One, I expressed a concern about data centers.
uh-huh,
I don't know if you've seen, but several cities have done referendums to prohibit
data
our
center.
initiatives, what I would call it, but they, whatever the state law, but
Right.
are doing referendums or initiative to prohibit data centers over a certain size.
Right,
And so we should maybe think about being proactive and adopting something similar.
Yeah, what I would do in that case, first I'd call Ryan Power, because
Yeah,
they can barely power.
They don't have
our
enough.
homes.
they're certainly not gonna have a
They're-
power or a data center.
Yeah, and I, no, in all seriousness, I don't think you could cite one here if you wanted to, because the power required could never do that.
No.
I could confirm that, but.
Well, I can confirm, there's no chance, there's no chance,
Yeah,
Okay.
but I appreciate
Scary
the
thought though.
thought.
but there's no chance.
But the other thing is that if they wanted to do a data center and depending on how much water it uses, well, they use a lot of water.
They use a lot of water.
The other thing is that because because we became a member of the, Washington, the Water Conservancy District, now we adopt the Water Conservancy we all voted at one of our meetings, and we adopted a policy that, any commercial enterprise that approaches any of the cities that are in the agreement. If it uses X amount of water over a certain figure, all of the towns have to vote, all the municipalities vote on whether or not we're going to allow that business because of the amount of water. And, that we would allow them to use that amount, put it that way. And if, I doubt it would pass that. So we've got two issues is not enough power in kind of the Rocky Mountain Power, and number two, the Water Conservancy District, all the members would vote it down. So,
I have one question. It bugged me today.
okay,
Have we contacted Rocky Mountain Power to discuss the fixing of Co-op Terrace Road?
yes, they got
Okay.
needs, they got needs.
I just wanted to
Yes.
sort of,
Yeah, we met on site, they are, as you can see, thank you for bringing that up, I was gonna put that in the information update, but I'll mention it right now. Almost immediately, we had them placing plates over
they need more.
well, and now those plates are being placed before failures. But
There's a new
yes,
failure.
Failure I saw
I
today.
talked to them right up front that I told them they're going to have to figure it out.
Okay.
Excellent.
So I have two things that I wanted to mention. And we can talk about them again a little more at the work meeting, at the regular meeting next week. But, I was at a meeting and, some of us mayors were talking with this one county commissioner about their meetings. And we got on the topic of open forum. And they were talking about how at their meetings, they have a lot of people that come up in open forum section and bring up stuff that is just completely just out of the way. And, what they do, and it was very interesting, some of the mayors, we were all like, oh, that's interesting, what they've done. And we asked them where they came up with this idea, I'll tell you in a minute. And they said that they have been at a meeting with many county commissioners, and it came up as they were talking to other county commissioners, how they had open forum, this one county said, well, this is how we do it, and they're like, oh, and so they implemented it in Washington County, and they said they like it a lot. And so what they do is they start the meeting, and, the open forum is the very first thing before anything else. And the commissioners go out in the audience and wander around and talk to people. What's your issue? Do you have any questions? Do you have any questions? They make them all down, they write them all down, and say, okay, we'll tell public works, we'll do this, we'll do that. And it's not coming up to the microphone, talking to the whole room. Because they've got people use it for political purposes, to make some statement about this, some statement about that. And they just wander around and say, okay, come up and ask us questions, and it's just very informal. And they have set time, and then when that time's over, they come back, and they go on with the rest of the meeting. And I was like, we're all going, well, that's interesting. And so instead of people coming up to the microphone and saying, well, there's this happening at my house, or there's this happening down the road from me, and blah, blah, blah. They're like, no, that doesn't need to be said in a microphone in front of the whole group. Just go out and talk to them and say, do you have an issue? Do you have anything you'd like us to know about? And, I was like, oh, so we all were very taken with that approach. And so I wanted to just throw that out there for something for us to think about. Maybe changing open forum or something like that, because they said it works wonderful. And they've now, gotten rid of this stuff that can happen at open forum with this kind of a that can happen. So, and then the other thing is, I got an email today from someone in town who's upset about some, accessory buildings that are being built in their neighborhood. And two of them, they're being built out of, basically metal.
Yeah, so we got all.
That was all, it went just for me, they don't have my.
No, it was all counts.
Well, they just had mine, they didn't have any lines, unless she sent one to you, one to you, one to you, one to you, individually. And so I've already written back to her 2 or 3 times, but, I said that in my mind, I don't know if you guys have
I
responded.
had not yet.
I responded and I followed up and asked if they submitted it to our code enforcement, and they said, no, they haven't.
But we don't have a code, we don't have a code that says you can't.
Yeah, may I address this, cause I got this late today and had some discussion with staff about it.
Cause I told my son to go talk to staff
Those-
tomorrow
yeah,
and back on, but.
So those structures need building codes.
Yeah, well, that's what my question, that's what I
They
think.
need setbacks and height and everything else.
Well,
So it's not something that the town can prohibit. We're not the taste police. We
I
don't,
told them all this.
Yeah.
I told them that we do not have a code that says you can't build a metal building. We don't have that in our code. We don't have anything in our code that says you can only build out of this material. And that if they meet our code, we cannot deny them.
Right.
And, therefore, the only way going forward is to amend our code to prohibit this metal buildings. And I don't know that we would ever be able to pass such.
I wouldn't recommend it because then you're applying that code to every property.
Yes, I understand.
So I am redirecting them and saying, if in planned communities, I don't know if, Desert
They're not
Gardens is
planned.
considered a planned community, but
It's just a
Yeah.
subdivision.
in HOA,
They're, no,
They
they
have
have
one, they do not anymore.
right, that was my understanding, but
I.
looking forward, maybe they should create one.
Right,
They can't, the way the rules are.
right.
Now I know where, I didn't get the email, but you're describing, I read my bike by a few times.
It's heartbreaking.
Yes, I drove over there and I said, I didn't know anything about them, never knew they got.
So it's-
permits, nothing.
I assume there's no electric going to it.
I have no idea.
My concern
Well-
would be if they're being used for a commercial use.
Well, her,
Business use.
Different,
Oh, no, I know, I know.
But yeah, ideally, in a planned community or even a subdivision, I mean, they could create an HOA, they could create an RHOA.
Well, that's what I said to her in my email to her, I said,
And they could.
I don't know what the CCNRs have to say, because there's CCNRs out there.
enforced.
I know that, what I said to her was, I don't know what your CCNRs say about building material in your subdivision, but I know that you do not have functioning HOA, and therefore any CCNR is not being enforced. And I don't know, I know the town doesn't have code about saying you can only build out a certain material, and therefore, me and Ryan's are tied.
Yeah.
So. And
I'm
then,
sympathetic, don't get me wrong, I'm
Yeah,
sympathetic, but.
Yeah.
You know.
I said, I
when
don't want to see it in my neighborhood.
municipality starts talking about specific materials and styles and so forth.
But at
it's
least,
Pretty slippery.
at least in our neighborhood, there's a functioning HOA, and the rules say what materials you can use, so. There,
And it's implemented and enforced just a heck.
I know. Okay, so anyway, this new way about doing open forum, I thought I would throw that out there, if you guys can think about it. They said they like it immensely. They think it's wonderful.
Well, I suppose we could try it on a trial basis.
What? Why?
I don't know, my initial feeling, I dislike it because things could be hidden. Certain things that people bring up could be just pushed up. Well, I heard that from them, I'm not gonna pass that on,
There is
type
that.
of thing. If it's open forum, it's open for everyone to hear.
Okay.
In my opinion.
And we haven't had the problem.
The county has, no, because the counties, one of the county's issues is they have the same people coming to their meeting over and over and over and over and asking, I'll just make this up, nobody said this, but it was similar to, why are you not doing anything about the war in Iran? That kind of, it's like, well, we don't, and it would just go on and on. Well, that's, and then we got federal issues, and they're like, oh my God.
That's why you have a 2-minute limitation.
But we need to hold people to that. We don't do such a great job
Yeah.
of that, of holding people to the time.
Oh, darn it. Okay, no, I just thought of something I meant to do in the new town hall that I didn't do. I'll send it off.
But I agree.
Yeah, I was gonna have a time clock on the wall behind us, but
Someone
we
go
might,
on.
we could probably still do that. What?
Oh, no, I agree with you. Open the bar, I don't speak, give everybody
Okay.
2 minutes. And believe it or not, when the Iraq war came on, Town of Boltzmann passed a resolution that.
Nobody could talk about it.
No, they passed a resolution against it because they didn't think there was weapons of mass destruction. I mean, it was a.
Oh, wow.
4 hour hearing.
Oh, my goodness. That's interesting. Okay, so-
Based on taxes and everything, so.
All right, so the other thing I have, I will hold for another meeting. Okay? Meeting adjourned? Motion to adjourn?
Motion to.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Hey, this is almost exactly 2 hours. At 1 hour, I